today I'm going to be talking a little bit more about me and my journey into STEM. I realised that I release loads of different topics on this channel, mainly mathematics, but I've never really explained how I got into mathematics and the journey that has led me to where I am today. So that's what I'm going to dive into in today's video. As a side note, I basically created this document that outlines everything about me and my journey into STEM, and I posted it on my Instagram, which was really well received, and across a few other platforms as well. Unfortunately, YouTube doesn't have the option to kind of swipe through images like TikTok and Instagram, so that's why I've decided to make it into a full video so I can elaborate a little bit more on those slides. So this was the front cover, and as you can see, I'm leaning on a stack of different maths books, and I have my maths mug, which I'm obsessed with. I have a couple of maths mugs now, and my Rubik's cubes to the side. So I thought anybody that saw this would think, okay, she's probably more geared towards mathematics, in STEM, as it were. But yeah, that was the kind of the front cover. And then the next cover, I just kind of summarise a few different things that I guess I do and I am. So I'm a mathematician, I'm a Cambridge maths graduate, software developer, speaker, content creator, advocate. I love research and writing, and a few different things on there, and then I kind of explain them in the slides as well. So yeah, the first one is a picture of me when I was little. I've still kind of kept the, the little chubby cheeks. I don't think I've changed much since being little, to be fair, but yeah, here's a little image of me, and it says that I'd be lying if I said that I knew what I wanted to be when I grew up, but the truth is I didn't. I was always a curious kid who enjoyed learning without really knowing where it would take me. And the reason I added that in there is because a lot of the time people kind of see my journey or they see the videos that I post and just assume that from such a young age I knew that I wanted to go and do a mathematics degree. But I wanted to be clear and transparent that that wasn't the case. I just kind of really loved learning as a kid. I guess I just saw education as something that you had to do. It wasn't until later that I began to realise the power of education and how much I really loved certain subjects. And that gets me on to the next slide. So I was studying at a state school for secondary, which is from the ages of 10 to 16, so up until you do your GCSEs. And then this state school itself also had a sixth form, and I stayed there for my sixth form studies as well. So, I was attending this school, and kind of up until the age of 15, like I mentioned in this slide, I felt like things were beginning to change. I began to start studying subjects that I really loved, and I could see myself, wanting to do them in my spare time, and had some phenomenal teachers. There are a few teachers here that are in the images from when I think this was when I finished GCSE. So the teachers in this slide here had a profound impact on how much I loved the specific subject. So let's talk a little bit about these teachers. Now, not all the teachers are pictured here. I didn't get pictures with absolutely every single one of my teachers. So there are a couple who aren't, pictured here who still had a huge impact on me. But the top right picture was a phenomenal English literature teacher. Now, I know you're probably thinking, English literature, mathematics, they're so completely different, but I fell in love with English literature thanks to this teacher, and she was just incredible. She believed in me. She taught the subject in such a way that I kind of left every lesson wanting to know more and wanting to learn more, and she was just fantastic, taught in such an inspirational way, and I owe a lot of where I am today to that specific teacher. She inspired me in ways that she probably doesn't even realise, but yeah, I absolutely loved English literature, so much so that I actually took it for A-level, which I'll get onto in just a moment. But yeah, thanks to my English literature teacher, I began to kind of ask questions about, why are things the way they are? Kind of like how you do in English literature anyway. You see, why has the author written this in a certain way? Why have they chosen this language? Why have they chosen, to write it in a specific tone? And so I owe a lot of the way that I view mathematics now to the way that I was taught English literature. And I always want to do that. Why? Why are things the way they are? And that kind of crept into mathematics for me, because I was like, instead of being taught how do we apply this theorem to get this particular result, I kind of led with, why are we doing this? Why? What is the deeper meaning? And why does it work this way? And I owe a lot of that to the way that I was taught English literature. I owe a lot of where I am today to that specific teacher. Now, my mathematics teachers, I had 3 phenomenal mathematics teachers. For my GCSEs, who is pictured in the bottom left, me and my twin sister both had her as teachers. We were in different classes, but she believed in both of us just as equally, and she was fantastic. Yeah, I absolutely loved going to her lessons, and she taught maths in such a fun way So at that time, I didn't know that mathematics was something I wanted to do at my degree. I just knew that it was kind of a fun subject that I really enjoyed learning. At that time, to be fair, I think English literature was probably my favourite subject. And then I did my A-levels. So during my A-levels, I did maths, further maths, English literature, theatre studies, which is quite surprising, and then biology, which I ended up dropping at AS because I just didn't really enjoy it as much as the other subjects. So yeah, it's a bit of a range of A-levels, I realise, completely different sides. I know a lot of people think that because I did astrodynamic software engineering, which I'll get onto later, that I would have done physics, but no, I had to teach myself all of that during my degree. So yeah, I did those A-levels, and for my further maths A-levels, I had two fantastic teachers. One of them is pictured here. He was honestly one of the reasons I fell in love with mathematics, and like I can't even put into words how much of an impact this specific teacher had on the way I view mathematics. He taught it in such a fun way and really reinforced that why instead of how are we doing, you know, how do we get X from X? It's more, okay, why are we getting X from X? I know that makes no sense mathematically, but yeah, he was phenomenal. And again, similar to my English literature teacher, I owe a lot to him for the reason I am where I am today. So yeah, and the other teacher I had, who's not pictured here, she was equally just as fantastic. I learned so many cool things. We kind of did more statistics and mechanics actually with her, and she was just phenomenal. Always came to lessons with a smile, and yeah, just taught maths in a really beautiful way. So the reason why I include this in here is because I owe a lot of where I am today to these fantastic teachers. And you know, I want to get into this video that I would absolutely love to be that person for somebody one day. There might be somebody who watches my videos and is left wanting to learn more, or, you know, left maybe a bit inspired to learn a bit more about mathematics. And I know what a profound impact my teachers had on me, and I would absolutely love to be able to do that across my social media channels. So to any of my teachers that may be watching this, I don't know if you do watch my channel, probably not, but yeah, I just want to say thank you, because I wouldn't be where I am today without you, and yeah, your incredible teaching and guidance and advice. So thank you. I just realised that I've basically just summarised everything that I put in this point here on the slide itself, which says, I wouldn't be where I am today without the inspirational teachers who sparked my love for learning. That's why I'm passionate about advocating for educators like them and inspiring others to discover the beauty in learning. Hopefully I can be for others what my teachers were for me. So that's a nice way of summarising what I basically just said. This next part is very different. It's very different from maths. I know I released a YouTube short alluding to this, and people were like, what? You did this? So for context, from the age of 10, I think it was, I started racing motocross bikes. And it was just kind of like a passion that I did with my dad. My dad raced, and I was always really interested and wanted to do it as well. So he got me a tiny little bike, and yeah, what started as like a tiny little hobby, just riding around kind of fields, turned into a full-time passion and a very, very large part of my kind of young teenage life, I would say. So I was racing bikes, and I was really, really determined. I absolutely loved the sport. I wanted to practice more, I wanted to get better, and I was able to, just through perseverance and like sheer determination and enjoying riding so much and just riding all the time, I was actually able to become British motocross champion at the age of 15, and then following that I became a sponsored rider for both Kawasaki and then Honda. And yeah, this was all crazy. This was, you know, between the ages of like 15 and 18, it was, you know, whilst I was doing my A-levels, I was also doing this kind of full-time sport. So weekends were always racing, Wednesdays would always kind of be practicing, and after school would be kind of practicing as much as I could. So it taught me a lot about how to balance things. So weekends were racing weekends pretty much. If it wasn't a national event, which would be the whole weekend, it would usually be practicing on a Sunday. So I had to manage my entire revising around that, which yeah, it taught me a lot. And like I said at the bottom, I said racing taught me a lot, mainly that if you put the work in, you get the results. I'm so thankful for the opportunities I had with racing, because it shaped how I work towards my goals even today. So thanks, Dad, for everything. And I'll say that a million times over. I absolutely adore my dad, and I'm so grateful that he got me into this sport, because it taught me so much from such a young age the things that I learned at the age of 15 that I still do now. And yeah, it was such a huge part of my life, and I met some great people. I love the adrenaline, and just looking back at the pictures now, I miss it so much, but I'll explain why I no longer do it as we move on. So yeah, I race motorbikes, and this little slide here basically just says, the thing is, I had chosen my A-levels, like I mentioned, but I still had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do with my career. I had 2 older sisters. I had a twin sister, obviously, so we were kind of deciding at the same time, but she did very different things to me. She's now in law. I'm in maths, very different. But I had 2 older sisters who were both accountants, or at least at the time, I think, training to be accountants. So they'd gone into that route. And I just automatically assumed that because I liked maths, that I had to go into something like finance. So I was applying for accountancy apprenticeships just because I assumed that if I liked maths, then this was kind of the only possible career path for me. But I also had dreams of becoming a professional motocross rider. A very long story short, I had basically been applying for these accountancy apprenticeships in my final year of A-levels, and I decided that I was going to take a year out afterwards. And the reason for that was because I wanted to really focus on my racing career. You know, I was racing the nationals, and I had the opportunity the following year that if I did well enough in the nationals that I would qualify for the European Women's Championship, and that was something that I always really wanted to do. And a spoiler, I did actually manage to qualify. I decided that, okay, I'd been offered an accountancy apprenticeship, but I was going to delay it for a year and just spend this year focusing on racing. And during that time, I was finishing off my further maths A-level, because basically what I'd done was in my final year of A-levels, I hadn't actually taken further maths from the start. So in year 12, I'd taken maths, English literature, theatre studies and biology. And then going into second year, I decided I didn't enjoy biology at all. So I ended up dropping biology and then picking up further maths at AS. So when I finished, I got 3 A-levels with an AS in further maths. So I thought, perfect, while I'm doing my year out and racing, I can also finish off my further maths A-level, and kind of went to school, went to sixth form a couple of days a week, and yeah, continued learning that way. So in my head at that point, I didn't have any idea what I wanted to do, but as I started that year, I began to fall more and more in love with mathematics. Thanks to my 2 incredible further maths teachers, I loved it, and I was like, I'm finding myself wanting to do maths outside of work. I didn't work, outside of school, outside of racing. I'd be racing my bike and I'd be thinking about mathematical theorems and formulas, and yeah, I knew then that, okay, I really, really enjoy this and I want to pursue it at university. And so I decided that I was going to study it at university. Now, I added this slide in here, which is like one of my favourite pictures, even though my dad hates it. It's a picture of me with my parents, and I just said, my parents always told me that I could be anything that I wanted to be. All they cared about was that I was happy. They let me figure everything out for myself. They never pushed me towards a particular career, and for that I am and always will be so grateful. My parents, my 3 sisters and my nan are my biggest inspirations and my absolute world. Now, the reason I added this in here was because I enjoyed the process of learning what I loved and what I really wanted to do. My parents never said to me, you have to take this career, you have to do this. They just said, all you can do is do your best. And like, that's enough. They said, as long as you're happy, you can be anything you want to be. And so I added this in here because I am so grateful that they allowed me to do that, and I had the opportunity to do that, because I know that's not true for everybody. I know some people unfortunately have parents who push them into particular careers, and that can be very damaging to their mental health. And so I've realised how fortunate I am to have had and have the parents that I do have who never push me towards anything. So yeah, I added that in there just as a little kind of cute little slide to say that my parents and my 3 sisters and my nan are my absolute world, and yeah, they inspire me every day. Now the next slide is a little change of events. Not the best events, and it's a bit cringe that I put this in here, but I feel like it was a very big part of my story, and I wanted to add it in. And that was basically, I was on my year out racing, finishing my further maths, and 4 months before I was due to start my degree. So I'd actually been offered a place at the University of Leeds. While I was in my year out, I had absolutely no idea kind of where I wanted to be, what I wanted to do. I just knew that I wanted to study maths, and I knew at the time I was still racing bikes. Now, I lived in York at the time, and so for me, Leeds was the best place for me to study not only because when I went to the open day I absolutely loved it, but because it was only half an hour on the train away. So in my head I thought, okay, I can still get the kind of university experience living away from home, but on weekends I can, hop back and go racing. And so for me that was the best decision. I got an offer from Leeds and was really, really excited to start. But unfortunately 4 months before I started my degree, I had a kind of very freak, kind of weird crash really, and suffered a head injury. And this was, this was a really hard time. It was a scary time and something that definitely shaped me into becoming the person I am today. It was a pretty dark experience, not only for me, but for my family. I don't remember much of the events that happened and everything that happened during that time, but I know my family lived through every second of it. I ended up having seizures as a result of my head injury, and they unfortunately haven't kind of disappeared. They're still kind of prominent after my head injury. I kind of developed these non-epileptic seizures, which were as a result of the trauma of the incident, and I have them pretty well managed now. I can drive again, thankfully, but for a few years it was kind of really hard to manage them. And so not only had I obviously had this head injury and was dealing with these seizures, I was also told that I obviously could never race my bike again. And the reason for that is they said that aside from the fact that it would just be silly to do that, but if I was to sustain another head injury, then my brain may never fully recover. And so, I despite the doctors telling me not to go to university, which was, probably maybe a bit silly on my part, but it still led me to where I am today, so I don't regret it. I started university. I had kind of a pretty tough kind of rehab, kind of recovery up until studying at uni. And I had to start my university degree whilst managing that entire recovery and my seizures, and also kind of saying goodbye to a sport that had been a huge part of my life. And I know this sounds like, get the violins out or whatever. I don't mean for it to be that. This is like a very huge part of my life, and I would be doing my entire journey like a disservice if I didn't mention it, because this taught me so much resilience. It taught me how important it is to take a break, because something I hadn't really realised is you have no pain receptors in your brain. And so when you're overdoing it, particularly after a head injury, you often don't realise it until it's too late. And then you end up sleeping, or you end up really struggling, mentally, and obviously that goes physically as well. But I learned things, like how important it is to take breaks, and just an incredible amount of resilience. So despite all of this and it kind of being a really tough time, I still had the best time during my bachelor's, and that's what gets me onto the next slide. It was amazing. Honestly, it did come with its challenges, like I mentioned, but I began to trust and love the process, and I just fell in love with maths in a whole new way. I just remember, I look back at my first year and think, I remember just smiling. It's so cringe, but I just remember smiling in my room, doing some maths and thinking, this is so cool, I love this, and wanting to learn more, and just feeling almost uplifted. It's a really weird sensation, and I remember it now, and I still get it now when I do maths. It just felt, I don't even know what the word is, but just incredibly uplifted and inspired and loved what I was doing. So I began to absolutely love and fall in love with maths. I made some incredible friends, lifelong friends, and developed a love for applied mathematics, particularly fluid dynamics, which I'm sure many of you will know if you've seen my old videos, because I just was a nerd and loved fluid dynamics and still do. And during this time, that's when I started this YouTube channel, which I never expected it. Like I say in the post, I never expected it to be where it is today. And as a side note, I just want to say thank you to everybody that supports this channel. Honestly, it means the absolute world to me. I love nerding out about really cool maths things, and I find it great that there's a little community of us that also do the same. At the time that I'm filming this, I think I'm at nearly 93,000 subscribers. I really want to get to 100,000 subscribers, which would just be, incredible. And I could put the little plaque behind here as well, along with my uni degree. But I just want to say thank you to everybody who supports this channel. It means, honestly, the absolute world to me. And I never expected it to be where it is today. I literally just started it during my degree, because I just was like, I want to just document what I'm studying and just be a little nerd, and that's what I was. Like I say in the end of this post, I worked really hard during my degree, and it paid off. I honestly worked so ridiculously hard during my degree. But in the end, I managed to graduate top of my year in applied mathematics at the University of Leeds, which is an achievement I'm really, really proud of. So I think I like to kind of tell the journey of how before uni I wasn't sure I was even going to graduate or even finish first year, and through resilience and a lot of resting. I was able to graduate top of my year in applied mathematics. So very, very proud of that achievement. Whilst I was studying maths at Leeds, I actually did an internship. Now, for some reason, just studying mathematics and all of the kind of resources we were exposed to as a maths graduate, or maths student, should I say, it was all related to finance. It was like, go work for the Big Four, or do accountancy, do actuarial. Everything just seemed to be finance related, and I just thought that was the only option for me. And in my head I was thinking, have I made a mistake? Should I have done the accountancy apprenticeships if that's the only option I have as a maths graduate? And I realised that I was actually wrong with that. So there was, I knew I loved space as well. I loved maths and I loved space. I did a couple of kind of physics modules during my degree, really enjoyed those. And I came across this programme called the Space Placements and Industry Scheme. Now, it's just a 8-week internship throughout the summer, and it's basically hosted by the UK Space Agency and Satellite Applications Catapult. And the idea is you have, the space industry in the UK has so many different companies. A majority of them are startups. And so they will get given money from the UK Space Agency and Satellite Applications Catapult. And those companies will then take on spin turns, or interns for the spin programme. And I applied to a few different ones, kind of not expecting to get it, because I thought I had to have done aerospace engineering or astrophysics or physics. And was really kind of surprised to have been accepted into one. Did that for the summer, and my supervisor, Dirk, who I always talk about, he was fantastic, and he also inspired me a lot as well. And that internship was fantastic, and it was the reason that I realised that, okay, maybe a maths degree opens many more doors than just finance. Now, I know there might be people watching this thinking, how did you not know that? It feels as though whenever you Google, or at the time that's what I was doing, maths careers, or you would go to careers events at university specifically for maths, it was always finance. And I was quite pleasantly surprised that that wasn't the case. And that leads me on to my next slide, which is coding. During my internship, I spent the whole time coding, and I did a couple of computational modules during my degree and really, really enjoyed coding towards the end. I absolutely hated it to begin with. Honestly, I was like, I can't think of anything worse than doing this right now. And that was when I was first introduced to it, but I'm glad I persevered, because I ended up really, really enjoying it towards the end. So I decided that because I loved coding as well as maths, and I was nerding out about maths on my YouTube channel, why not do it for coding? And so I created a YouTube account called Code of the Future, which is still there. There are still many videos, but it needs a bit of reviving, because I haven't posted on there in a couple of years. So I need to get back into that. But if people are interested in that, then let me know in the comments. But I set up this platform, and it was designed to teach people how to code through fun and free and easy tutorials. Something I realised was when I often would watch tutorials online, it would be kind of people who had like 20 years experience, and they'd often gloss over the stuff that is really important for beginners but might seem intuitive to them. So I was like, okay, I'm going to try and solve this by just creating tutorials on my YouTube and just making resources that are helpful to people. And because of that, I was lucky enough to partner with Bright Network, who basically offered my coding tutorials to over 400,000 of their students, which was crazy. And I was getting loads of people, and I still do actually get loads of people saying, the little certificates that say I completed this course. Now I would say that I need to update those Python videos. They're still very much applicable, but they're a couple of years outdated. So we have new versions and things. So I might release a new Python beginner playlist. But I did that during my degree and really, really enjoyed that. And I think it was nice because I was learning a lot about outreach and providing access to resources that, some people may not have. And I just love learning, and I love teaching other people new things so that they can learn it as well. So yeah, that was really cool. And then during my final year, I applied to both Oxford and Cambridge for my masters. And like I said here, I was incredibly grateful to have been accepted into both. Now, I have some videos on my channel where I talk about how I chose between the two. So if you're interested, then check them out. They're quite old now. So yeah, I might look and sound a bit different, but I ultimately chose to study at Cambridge and study part 3 in applied mathematics. So that's what I went on to do. And as I say in the slide, it was one of the hardest but best years of my life. So I then go on to say that I learned really, really cool things, from astrophysical fluid dynamics to dynamics of astrophysical disks. And at this time, I felt like I'd really found the area of mathematics that I loved. I then graduated Cambridge and got 87% in my dissertation, which was on wave attractors in fluid systems, which I'm going to be releasing a follow-up video where I go through the maths on that, because I just really loved researching into that, and it was really cool. So yeah, very, very lucky to get 87% in that. That was an achievement that I'm really, really proud of. But you know, that also tied in a lot. The area of that dissertation was similar to the modules I was studying. I still research that kind of area today, just out of interest. And like I said here, passion, purely out of interest, passion and a desire to keep learning and exploring. I then have this slide here that says, you know, reflection, and basically say that both my degrees left me with lifelong friends who are all pictured here, and I wouldn't have got through the stuff that I went through at university without these wonderful friends. So yeah, here's to those beautiful friends and to my family as well. Post-graduation, so after my masters, I joined a space company as a space systems optimization engineer, and then later joined the mission planning department as their lead astrodynamic software engineer. Now, I was with this company for about 2 years actually, and I worked on kind of optimizing satellite missions, designing kind of efficient trajectories for spacecrafts, and then building this entire back end of this mission planning software, which was quite a lot. It was a lot to do. But you know, I really, really enjoyed it. I love space, but what I realized whilst I was doing that role was, because I was working for a startup, I was kind of doing everything myself, and you know, I absolutely love working by myself, but I didn't really feel like I was gaining knowledge from the people around me. And so I was kind of just basically tasked with building this back end of a mission planning software. So, you know, figuring out all of the space trajectories and, you know, Newton's laws, all these different things for spacecraft. And I was basically just taking a kind of library that already existed in C++ and then converting it to Rust. Now, it was great because I was learning all about, you know, the kind of laws of spacecrafts and motion and stuff like that, which was fantastic. But what I realised, and like I said in my post, is that specific role had been done a lot before, and it was something that I could just be doing in my spare time, which I still do in my spare time actually. But I was craving, like I mentioned, faster innovation. I wanted something that, you know, I wanted to be learning brand new things, brand new theories, just like in research when you learn about new methodologies or, you know, how research is evolving. And I was just really craving that environment. And that's what I felt like when I was on my masters, was I was learning all these, you know, principles and concepts, but there was new research continually coming out. Whereas for this project I was working on, there wasn't really. It was just laws that are just standard and have already been implemented and done. And once I'd learnt it, that was it. There wasn't really any kind of addition onto that. So like I mentioned here, I said I craved faster innovation and a dynamic environment where I could make an immediate and more meaningful impact. And this led me on to my next role, which is what I currently do, and that is working in tech and AI. So I made the jump from the space industry to tech and AI, and honestly, it's been one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. You know, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love space, but this new role, I feel like I am just learning so much all the time, and that's how my brain works. That's how I want to be working. It feels as though if you don't continually catch up, you get left behind, and that's something that I really enjoy. It's a very dynamic environment. I work with some incredibly intelligent people who I'm learning a lot from, and the people that I work with, you know, inspire me a lot because their knowledge is so extensive, and I love learning from them. And, you know, I work for a company who is having to constantly be at the state of, you know, innovation and releasing new AI models or, you know, new research and new training methods. So I would say the constant innovation learning in my current role, it just suits me so unbelievably well. And I find myself kind of constantly learning and just, I feel like I know it sounds a bit crazy, but I love this fast pace and constantly learning new things. It satisfies my brain. And yeah, like I mentioned in here, I get to work with a fantastic team, constantly learning new things. And I absolutely love it. So yeah, I made the best decision ever moving from my previous role to this current role. But that being said, you know, I realised on the next slide, I realised that the work I was doing in the space industry could still be done in my spare time, and it's something that I still do in my spare time, just out of, you know, pure interest. And what I really like about working in AI and machine learning is because it's at the forefront of innovation. I often find myself learning new things at work and then thinking, how could this be applied to other industries? And so I find it quite cool because I get to, you know, work on little projects myself, you know, coding different projects and doing research. And it's really cool because I am often thinking this stuff that we're working on at work can be applied to other industries as well, and, you know, improve things in those industries. And yeah, I find that really, really cool. So that's led me to some really cool projects that I've been working on. And like I say in the bottom, if you want to hear more about those, or if you want me to go back to my coding channel and start showing you projects that I've been working on, then yeah, let me know in the comments, because I'd quite enjoy that, I think. And then the other thing that I say here is that I am going to be posting a whole separate post on, you know, out of work activities. What do I do aside from maths and aside from being a nerd and love solving Rubik's Cubes and all these different things? But I'm summarising it here. So if you want that into a YouTube video, I'll probably make it into a YouTube video as well. Kind of similar format to this one. But I say here that I am deeply passionate about STEM advocacy and actively take part in campaigns, talks and initiatives to inspire others, especially underrepresented groups, to pursue careers in STEM. Through education, mentorship and outreach, I work to make STEM more accessible and exciting for everyone. And so if you're not already following me on Instagram or other social media platforms where I talk a little bit more about what I get up to day to day, then please go follow me, because that's where I kind of post all of this outside work that I do. I realise YouTube is kind of, you know, it's long form content, but I'm trying to post more shorts on here, and I'm going to start posting in the community as well. So yeah, I'm hugely passionate about that. I want to try and inspire other people to consider careers in maths and STEM, because, you know, if it weren't for my teachers, I wouldn't be where I am today. And like I said before, I'd absolutely love to be that person for somebody else. But yeah, outside of advocacy, I spend my time researching mathematics and coding projects and apps, which is quite cool. I quite enjoy just kind of looking at research papers and just giving them a read and learning about new things, especially in astrophysical fluid dynamics. I am often keeping up to date with kind of the new research that the Cambridge department have been releasing. So obviously I worked with, my supervisor was one of the guys that works in the kind of astrophysics department within the Department of Applied Mathematics and Theoretical Physics. So I found myself kind of researching and reading up on what they've been doing. And then, yeah, I like to code. I am coding an app at the moment, which is quite fun. I've always wanted to, you know, continue my love for building projects, and yeah, coding just a kind of a really basic app, just out of pure interest. And then outside of all of this techie nerdiness, I also climb, which when I said about, I think I posted in one of my very old videos about climbing, and somebody said, why is it that everybody in STEM climbs? So maybe you do too. But yeah, I climb, so mainly indoor bouldering is what I do. Again, with my head, I have to be a little bit careful. So yeah, try not to do anything too head injury prone, I guess. And then the other thing I do is kickbox, but that is not competitive. That is just one-on-one training, and I don't do any sort of sparring or anything. It's literally just learning the technique, but I really, really enjoy that. So yeah, I said at the bottom that sport is really important for my mental health, because it gives me a way to switch off, stay active and reset. And that's something I've always, you know, kind of lived by throughout my life is it's always been a switch off for me, and that's always been nice. But yeah, I said at the end of the slide that is my story. It's a little glimpse into my journey into STEM. I know there's probably so many questions that you're probably still wondering and want to be answered. So please just comment them in the comment section and I'll do my best to reply. But like I said here, let me know a bit about you and your journey into STEM or whatever kind of career you've gone into. I'd love to, have the comment section as a bit of a place where people share what they've done, with their careers or whatever. So yeah, please comment in the comment section a little bit about yourselves. I love to know my community a little bit better, and thank you so much to every single one of you who supports my journey and this channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.